Hi, and welcome back to the Twitch Show. Welcome or welcome back. Welcome if this is your first time listening, and welcome back if you're a returning visitor. Yeah. So, first of all, how was your week, or how has your week been? What have you been up to? What's what new goals are you setting for yourself, and what things have you accomplished? We've come quite a long way in 2025 already. This already is the fastest January I've ever experienced in my life. For some reason, 2025 just wants to get it over with, just wants to be done. I mean, January is typically like 60 days, but for some reason, this actually felt like a 31 day month, a 31 day January. Very fast, very quick. So, for people who set goals and said, oh, January has this, even though it's 31 days, it feels like it's, like rightly said, 60. Said, oh, I would start towards the tail end of January. This is the tail end of January, and you've probably not started. So, sucks to be you, I guess. Sucks to be anyone who's doing that. But anyway, we listen, we don't judge. I'm not here to judge anyone. I'm just saying that the more you keep putting off stuff, the more likely you are to not do those things. You know, you want to get into a new culture or a new habit. The best thing is to start. And I say this because I've been psyching myself up with this idea that the fear that people have when they want to start something isn't necessarily a fear of starting. It's a fear of, let's say, responsibility and accountability. Because once you start, you're either accountable to yourself or someone, preferably someone. For example, if you are going to be going to the gym, if you're going to hit the gym this year, if your goal was to be fitter, or maybe build an aesthetic physique, you know, you're going to have a gym body. Maybe you even pulled out all the stops. Excuse me, pulled out all the stops. Got a personal trainer. You'd have to be accountable to your personal trainer, and the fact that you're paying the person, just rings and echoes loud in your head that you are paying this person. So there's a tendency that you might want to put it off. Say you don't even have the cash to splurge on a personal trainer. You have a friend who is also a gym rat, and say, bro or girl, I want to hit the gym. I want to get an hourglass figure. Or may I want 8 pack abs, whatever it is. Whatever it is you want to do, either to live healthier or to be healthier or build an aesthetic physique, you're going to have to be accountable to someone. You're going to have to be responsible with your eating, with your lifestyle in general. You're going to have to be healthier with your lifestyle. And I think that responsibility or that accountability is the scary part for the most part. I think this is my own opinion as to why people don't start. And so it's a mental game. It's a mental game. Before I started recording this episode, I was watching a YouTube short where there was this girl who walked up to a pull-up bar, and she said she wanted to do pull-ups. Basically, I've watched the video. I've seen people bigger than her. You'd expect, oh, these people will probably hit like 10 reps on a pull-up bar. This girl did 17. When she got to 10, and you call it confirmation bias anyway, but the comment section confirmed what almost everybody was seeing. When she did the first 10, it was like, yes, brute strength. The last 7, she had to psych herself to get to the 17th mark. I mean, that combined with exhaustion, she probably would have pushed for 20. Who knows? The point I'm trying to drive at is the mind plays such a huge role in whatever we do. The mind plays such a huge role, and I certainly am not the first to say this, and I certainly will not be the last. But the fact that you're hearing this is indicative that you keep on hearing it. It's not going to stop, because one of the things that people wrestle with is the fact that what do, is one of the things that is one of the sayings or one of the ideas that they tell themselves. Why am I mixing up my sentence structure? But they tell themselves, in essence, what can I offer? What am I doing that isn't already being done? You know, what do I have to offer to the world that someone else isn't already doing? And then you have inspirational speakers, motivational speakers say something along the lines of, no one can do it like you. You're unique. No two fingerprints are the same. No two fingerprints are the same. No two persons are equal. No man is an island of knowledge. You hear all these things. Very fascinating, very propelling, I will say. At the end of the day, it is still the person that will take action. If the person hears all these things and shouts yes, and maybe even does a confession, right hand to the chest, left hand raised at a 90-degree angle, and say, I will do my duty to God, maybe with three fingers like the scout salute, whatever it is, the person still has will I say, a load of responsibility, for lack of a better word, still has a load of responsibility to execute or to follow through with their plans, follow through with whatever it is they've set in their mind that they want to do. I told myself that I want to read, at a minimum. I don't read non-fiction. I really do not like non-fiction as much as I do with fiction. So fictional books are easy to burn through. So I told myself, there's a popular saying that leaders are readers. Leaders are readers. Yes, leaders are. I thought I said readers. Readers are leaders. Leaders are readers. Both of them can go in any way. They can fit in any part of the sentence. I told myself that at a minimum, since I'm not. I mean, I used to read non-fiction books growing up, but I just dabbled. Maybe get a 15-minute summary of a 200-page book, 300-page book, and I could tell you what the book was about. That is the, would I say, benefit and maybe also downside of technology. Or maybe the benefit and downside of technology. A lot of people don't read; they just get 15-minute summaries or a long blog summarizing the entire book, and they feel like they know everything about the book. But what I'm trying to say is that I told myself that I want to read one non-fiction book a month. It's very easy to set that kind of goal, and it's something that people like to hear. So when someone asks me, "Oh, what are you doing now?" I say, "Oh, I'm reading this book. It's by this author," and they hear a title along the lines of "Secrets of," I don't want to quote a particular book, but the title of a particular book came to my mind. I want to make up something, and let me think. Secrets of the 1% Man or something. I don't know. I don't know if there's a book like that. Don't quote me. But they hear something like that, or the book I'm reading currently, The Power of Why. They hear that, and they're so fascinated. You can see it in their face. Maybe their eyes light up, their demeanor changes, their everything, their entire countenance, it just shifts, and you all of a sudden become that more interesting. And you're like, oh, what's the book about? It's something people want to hear, and consciously and subconsciously, we fall into the trap of doing things we think people want from us. We subconsciously fall into the trap of doing things that we think people would accept. I mean, sure, you humans are social beings, and with every social being, there is a need for acceptance. There's a need to be accepted into a community. It's the reason why people subscribe to organized religion or organized ideologies against organized religion, and several other social constructs that people identify with, like identifying with the sexuality driven community, but that one, or identifying with atheistic people, or identifying with some form of monotheism that isn't, say, Christianity. You know, basically, people want to be accepted. So, everything that you think someone says that sounds like an original idea, or that sounds like a new deviation from something, or something that is widely accepted, it's not. I saw something and it made me question myself for like 2 seconds, and then I was like, oh wait, I've thought about this thing before. What is wrong with me? And it was a very declarative, for a lack of a better adjective, very bold. It was in bold letters, maybe even sans serif. Oh no, sans serif is without the serif. So I think it was serif or sans serif. I can't remember, but I just know it was in bold letters. And it says, nothing or no idea is original. And it is, to most people, it might look like a controversial thing, but it's not a lie. I mean, the Bible so clearly says that nothing is new under the sun. Now, if Solomon, who lived thousands of years before Jesus, maybe even maybe a couple hundreds of years, thousands of years before Jesus, maybe 1,000. My numbers are wonky at this point, but he lived years before Jesus. If Solomon would say nothing is new under the sun, someone seen to a large regard or to a large extent as the wisest man to walk the face of the earth, if you would say something like that, it's not something you take with a grain of salt. You have to eat it, not even with a plate of rice, you eat it with fufu, because it's like a goosey thick, not even a goosey, ofo that has hold up. How do I explain this to an international audience? It's like a sushi platter, you know. It's like A5 Wagyu with caviar and the whole assortment, the whole accoutrement, I think as the French would say. Anyway, what I'm driving at is there is actually nothing new. So, in a way, we are not, permit me, this might be a controversial take. So now this is my opinion. Take with a grain of salt, plate of rice, whatever fits your diet. We are not creative in quotes. We are innovators, because everything, to be creative or to create, is to call something out of nothing. Whatever it is we are doing, me and the millions, billions of people doing one beautiful thing or the other all over the world, they are innovators, not even inventors. And someone would say, what do you mean? When people see a new, they or develop a new vaccine for, let's say, pre-existing viral condition or terminal illness, or they discover a new strain of virus, it's not new. You see them talk about how a new strain of virus was 2 million years old, which I don't really believe it's 2 million years old. That's a conversation for another day. You see them talk about how old it is. It means the virus is not new. So while some ideas might look like they are new, in and of itself, it isn't new. You can just say it's refined. Yeah, it's refined. It's the reason why you have things like progressive Christianity. I mean, the tenets of the Christian faith stand true and stand sure. It is people's desire to have something new that gave birth to silly things like progressive Christianity and progressive whatever. There really is no need for progressive Christianity because Christianity is Christianity. The Bible is the Bible. There's no progressive anything. But people want to have this sense of newness. Oh, this is something that has never been seen before. Bro, the hypersexualized, sexually driven community, they are just a knockoff of the Roman Empire, an archetype or a mimicry of Sodom and Gomorrah. If you know, you know. That's basically it. So, what am I trying to say? I've said all of that to say this. The mind is powerful, so powerful, yet so fragile. And the mind can be likened to two things: a glass house and an egg. I want to use these two things to explain the strength and the fragility of the mind. Now, I don't know if you grew up with parents who sang, there was this song. I hope I get the melody right. I'm not sure I get the melody right, but they say, if you live in a glass house, don't throw stones, something like that. I don't know the if you live in a glass house, but the one that echoes in my head is don't throw stones, you know. Basically calling your attention to the fact that stone and glass, they don't marry. They don't marry. You can't live in a glass house and throw stones. At the end of the day, you won't have a house. Yeah? And speaking of the egg, the reason why the mind is like the egg, look at the egg. What came first, the egg or the chicken? I don't know what came first. Maybe the chicken. I'll say chicken because the Bible says God created all the animals. So the chicken came first before the egg, if I'm going by that logic anyway. But what I'm driving at is this: the egg signifies new life. Yeah? When a chicken lays an egg, and or a hen, to be more specific, lays an egg, she sits on it to incubate it. That incubation is for the development of the fetus, so that that fetus would develop into a chick, and in due time would use its beak and crack the egg, and new life emerges. That new life would then grow to be another, maybe chicken, maybe hen or cock, whatever it is. Yeah. But if that egg is taken from underneath the hen and dropped, even from 2 feet, if it is dropped, it cracks and that life has ended. A chick would not form from it again. That's it. So when you think of the mind like that, the mind is both a seat for, will I say, harboring, nurturing ideas, concepts, ideologies, perspective, opinions. Is the reason why I attended a TEDx summit, and one of the speakers said something that your thought sets your mind, or your thought sets your mindset. That there isn't a mindset per se, it is your thought set, because thoughts are like seeds and the mind is a field. So thoughts are planted in the mind, and it is in the mind that these thoughts germinate and form perspective, ideas, convictions, opinions, etc. And I completely agree with it. It is the reason why there are some things you've thought about, you didn't think deeply about it, they came and you just leave. And there are some ideas that maybe TikTok algorithm Instagram Reels algorithm, YouTube pushed because you consumed one content, and it kept on growing and growing and growing and growing and growing, and it became an orchard. And now it's almost undeniable in your mind. There isn't a day that goes by that your mind doesn't ponder or reflect on that said idea. Is the reason why there is always a clarion call in certain organized religions for you to practice what you preach. Muslims spend 5 times a day praying. They read their Quran. They observe the tenets of their faith. Similarly to Christianity, we're advised to engage in prayer and study of the word, the Bible, in frequent fasting, to curb and curtail certain things, certain excesses or certain desires and longings of the flesh. Hinduism and all those people who practice all those other religions, they do things like this. And the reason they can speak about their religion, be you a Christian, a Hindu worshipper, a Buddhist, and a Muslim, the reason these people can speak so confidently is because they've practiced. They've allowed the tenets of the faith build ground and hold space in their mind, and it has translated into their life. So the mind is it can be upset by the littlest of things. That is the reason why the Bible says, guard your heart with all diligence, for out of it flows the issues of life. Now the Pharisees, which were a bunch of hypocrites in the Bible, came up to Jesus one day, and now if you're reading this with the amplified version, it says the Pharisees came to Jesus and asked him a question, hoping that they would get an answer from him they will use to persecute him. So you see these people, 2-time low lives, backstabbing sons of a female dog. They came to Jesus and they asked him a question so that they will implicate him, like Two-Face Idibia, and Jesus, they asked Jesus, why don't your disciples wash their hands? Because they did ceremonial washing of hands. The way you wash your hand before you cut fufu to eat, or cut eba, or whatever other swallow you consume. They say, why don't they? Jesus said, it is not what goes into a man that defiles him. It is what comes out of him. Verily, verily, I say unto you, you these hypocrites, that it is not what comes out of a man's mouth. It is not what he takes in. It is what comes out from his heart. From his heart. Because the heart of man is desperately wicked. Who can know it? They wanted to corner Jesus, but Jesus cornered them. Why people say he Shina Uno reverse. He dropped an Uno reverse. He saw through their, I'm saying all of that to say this. Whatever you think you're consuming, it is not that. It is not just the consumption of that. There's the consumption and there's the digestion. When you ingest food, biologically, digestion of food starts in the mouth. Starts with mastication, because once food comes in contact with your mouth, an enzyme is released, ptyalin. Ptyalin is released immediately, secreted through the salivary glands, and starts breaking down the food, yeah? And through the process of mastication, it breaks down the food, so that by the time the food comes in contact with gastric acids and every other enzyme in the stomach, in the gut, it is easier for breaking down and absorption into the bloodstream and every other part where it is needed. And that is how thoughts and ideas and ideologies build. When you see, for example, I don't know why, for some reason I've had to block and block and block and block my explore page on Instagram. I want to go and search for someone, and I'm seeing ladies with revealing dresses or people twerking on my explore page. Hits, not interested, refresh, it goes away, and I'm just seeing football and basketball and maybe some other things like people, some mutuals from people I follow. Come back couple minutes later, that's revert. I'm like, what is this now? Now it starts like that. If there's a continuous consumption of that, somebody goes to sleep in the inside the dream, you'll be seeing a woman that he does not know. You'll be like, what's happening? And then it keeps on festering and festering, and you're telling yourself, nothing goes up. My brother, something goes up. Something will happen. So if you live in a glass house, and that glass house is your mind, don't throw stones. Don't throw stones. A wise man says, don't smell a food that you will not taste. No smell food where you no go chop. You will not go and perceive soup and say, soup. You will be tempted to go and eat the soup. It is the reason why you're walking past a bukateria, or a bukateria, as we call it, mama put, and there's this wave moves so strongly across your nose, and you're like, good Lord, that's some righteous agoing. And you stop to buy agoing, and like, I don't taste as I chop agoing and bread, and you stop. There's a reason, man. So guard your heart, guard your mind. Your thoughts are just as important as any other thing. Any other thing you do in life, your thoughts are as important as that. Because the difference between success and failure comes to the power of the mind. I saw what did I just say? Please ignore that. But I saw a video of this neuroscientist, who really knows if she's a neuroscientist. But anyway, she was talking about something, and she said that the difference between people who succeed and people who fail is belief. That you don't become what you say, you become what you believe. Because people who believe in themselves, and I talk about that, believing in yourself, it's beautiful in concept, but probably another episode. Now, people who believe in themselves are likelier to succeed than people who don't, because their mind, their brain, I should say, starts looking for ways to make that belief, make that dream into reality. Makes sense in theory, and I think it kind of makes sense if it translates well into reality. Maybe not all the time, but majority of the time it does translate well into reality. It just shows you the power of the mind. Guard your heart, guard your mind, and feed your mind with positive things. So this day, I urge you, believe Jesus. If you will not believe any other thing, you look to the heavens, look down to the ground, the stone cold earth, the rock hard earth, and you look at the waters as the waves lap against each other, almost like a cacophonic melody, and you think to yourself, what a wonderful world. At the end of the day, Jesus is the way. Thank you guys for listening to this episode. Subscribe, follow, share with your friends, and please guard your heart, guard your thoughts, take conscious action. As I'm saying this to you, like I say, I'm saying it to myself. Take conscious action to monitor everything you consume. And I'll see you guys on the next episode. Flip the switch and illuminate. Go out there and light up the world. God bless you.